Oh, God! No! Oh, my God!
Love is a universal language with countless expressions and customs. While many of us are familiar with Western wedding traditions like throwing the bouquet or slipping on wedding bands, have you ever thought about how vastly rituals vary across the globe? From the lush highlands of Scotland to the crowded streets of India, and places you may not even be able to find on a map, wedding practices can look very different worldwide. Join us as we show you the 15 weirdest wedding rituals and traditions in the world. Number 15. Beating of the groom's feet. On the morning of a traditional Korean wedding, the groom's feet receive unusual treatment. They are playfully whipped with a dried fish to ward off misfortune. This ritual is known as falaka and can be traced back centuries in Korea. The origins of falaka relate to ancient Korean geomancy traditions. Feet are considered low energy points on the body that are vulnerable to infiltration by evil influences. Beating the feet transfers vital life force energy to this unprotected location, creating a ritual shield against wickedness. On the day of his nuptials, the Korean groom has his shoes and socks removed to expose his bare soles and toes. He then lies flat on the floor while female relatives hoist up and bind together his feet. Armed with a stiff dried fish, often a flounder or mackerel, the women take turns lightly beating the groom's elevated feet bottoms. This bizarre act serves multiple symbolic purposes. Firstly, absorbing controlled strikes to his feet is believed to increase the groom's strength and virility for his impending wedding night. The pain is considered fortifying, like an athlete's training. Second, it tests his ability to concentrate mentally and stay composed. During the beating, relatives barrage him with questions or have him recite poetry to evaluate if he can keep his focus. Mental clarity and resolve in the face of duress demonstrate readiness for the weighty duties of married life. Finally, the fish itself represents abundance and fertility in Korean culture. Whipping the groom's bare soles transfers the luck and positive essence stored within the fish onto his body. The harder the strikes, the more good fortune gets conveyed. While seemingly odd to outsiders, falaka remains an integral wedding custom across Korea. It evokes laughter while forging bonds between the groom and his new family, and it prepares the groom physically, emotionally, and spiritually for a brighter shared future with his new bride. Number 14. Blackening the bride and groom. When you think of marriage, images of neat and clean dresses, elegant ceremonies, and romantic gestures likely come to mind. However, in the rugged landscapes of Scotland, there exists a tradition that is completely opposite to the conventional ideals of matrimonial bliss. The evening before their big day, the unsuspecting couple is captured by friends and family and whisked away in an open-back truck. As they are paraded through town, their captors bang pots and pans, creating a deafening ruckus akin to a medieval public shaming. The chaotic procession ends at a secret destination where the grim blackening ceremony takes place. There, the bride and groom are held down and slathered from head to toe in a vile concoction of spoiled food, mud, grease, feathers, soot, and any other unpleasant mess that can be scrounged up by the mischievous mob. The goal is to coat the victims completely until they are unrecognizable. Common ingredients include rotten eggs, curdled milk, fish guts, cow manure, gelatinous pig's blood, and vegetable scraps. Surrounded by jeering onlookers, the putrid pair then endures further humiliation like getting rolled in a pigsty or dunked in a mucky pond. Photos may be taken to memorialize their unglamorous appearance. Finally, the ordeal ends and the bedraggled victims are released to clean themselves up before walking down the aisle. Despite the cruel treatment, blackening is not intended solely as hazing or pranking entertainment. Rather, it symbolizes cleansing away the couple's former bachelor and maiden statuses. By striping them down to a degraded primal state covered in filth, they can emerge reborn like a phoenix from the ashes. The event also forges stronger bonds between the two clans who will be joined by the marital union. Laughter helps diffuse underlying anxieties over the impending nuptials and blending of future in-laws. Number 13. Fattening of the brides. Imagine yourself a blushing young beauty in the windswept desert nation of Mauritania seeking a husband while your family judges your romantic prospects solely by how much excess weight you gained this past year. Welcome to the reality endured by brides-to-be across this Saharan country. In Mauritania, Female allure and marital eligibility are calculated almost entirely according to corpulence, the cultural phenomenon of gavage literally meaning fattening. Generations of frequent famine made fat synonymous with family wealth, the only realistic means of affording plentiful calories. So most Mauritanian parents send adolescent daughters to intensive boutiques dubbed fattening farms, specializing in force-feeding rituals to make girls maximally marriageable as soon as possible. At such urban fattening centers, pre-wedding teen girls get confined to cells tethered to television screens, while older matrons work round the clock, gently prying open jaws to continuously shovel down puddings laced with virgin camel milk. Consuming 8,000 to 16,000 calories daily, some captive brides double their original weight within a few months to achieve the prevailing Mauritanian image epitome of beauty: voluminous, excess folds. To accelerate growth curves, some girls even take mysterious pills, rumored to include hormones that facilitate female fat storage. Parents monitor their daughters' measurements daily, beaming with pride as they inflate. Socially anxious brides who fall behind growth benchmarks get promptly expelled back home, where they usually get treated as failures until relay for more disciplined fattening. Number 12. Spitting blessings. In the vast golden savannas and Great Rift Valley of Kenya, the semi-nomadic Maasai tribe relies upon cattle rearing for subsistence. For these herders who deeply value their livestock, weddings represent a profound convergence of human love and the blessings of nature's bounty. An unusual highlight of Maasai nuptials is the ritual of fathers spitting copiously upon their daughters and future sons-in-law, a gesture of affectionate protection believed to confer fertility. Ceremonies among the Maasai deliver a vibrant glimpse into their strong sense of ancestral community. As guests gather before the rituals commence, elders slaughter goats and cattle for celebratory feasts. Within their ornately decorated dresses, the dark-skinned brides radiate beauty with their hair shaved and bodies adorned in ornate jewelry. Soon all focus rests upon the public exchange of vows. Following prayers led by a village elder, the bride's father approaches the couple who stand silently beside a ceremonial bull. As they bow their heads, the elder leans in close and spits on the bride. For outsiders, such a slimy spectacle might seem vulgar. Yet for Maasai culture, spraying newlyweds with spit carries profound meaning. Bodily fluids hold protective mystical powers in their worldview. By dousing his daughter and new son in sacred sputum, the patriarch transfers luck, wards off curses upon their union, and blesses their loins with the gift of children. The quantity of spit equates directly to the quantity of good fortune and progeny. It demonstrates profound caring through the sharing of one's very essence in hopes for the couple's prosperous destiny. Moreover, spittle provides a sensory bridge linking humanity with the cherished, life-giving forces of their environment. Maasai saliva carries traces of the grasslands, the livestock, the mud, the sweat, the vibrant web of existence that sustains their people. Its wetness now baptizes the couple, makes them glisten as the new morning dew upon the plains grass. Ancestors smile in approval to see old traditions lovingly maintained even as modernity transforms tribal life. Number 11. The bride price. An intricate marriage custom practiced widely across sub-Saharan Africa is the bride price. Known as lobola among the Zulu or magadi by the Kikuyu, this complex institution entails the groom compensating the family of his fiancée by providing them with money or precious goods in exchange for their daughter's hand in marriage. Long intertwined with local economies and kinship structures, the tradition of bride price remains a cornerstone of nuptial negotiations, though not without plentiful controversy in modern Africa. A public ceremony accompanied by music and revelry customarily marks the bride price settlement made prior between the husband-to-be and male elders of the bride's family. Ceremonial hoots and ululations erupt to celebrate the groom's sincere commitment. By paying the family for their daughter, the bride price historically reinforced familial ties between clans, while ensuring the woman felt valued rather than given arbitrarily as chattel. However, scholars today note the potential downsides of extravagant bride pricing. Excessively high lobola sums force many men to never marry. Some families feel incentivized to essentially sell their girls to the highest bidder, with less less care for the emotional suitability between her and the groom. And financially disempowered husbands are perpetually indebted to in-laws do not make for equitable marriages. Nonetheless, supporters argue the system brings order and consensus to the institution of matrimony in clan-based communities. The bride price delineates that husband and wife possess distinct identities and roles. It confirms their complementary status rather than co-identical equality, which aligns with most African social perspectives on gender relations. And for parents losing their daughter's physical presence and labor to another village, the lobola payment supply continued support in her absence. Nowadays, from Lagos to Nairobi, many urban couples uphold adapted versions of bride price protocol alongside trendier Western-style practices. Debates around culture, women's autonomy, and human rights seem unlikely to ever untangle this complex African marital practice. Number 10. Log cutting ritual. Within the misty Black Forest region of southern Germany, a unique woodsy folk ritual accompanies many local weddings. On the day itself or at an earlier gathering, the bride and groom jointly perform the custom known as Baumstammsagen. This symbolic act determines their readiness for the joint endeavor of marriage through cooperatively sawing through a thick log of pine. No easy task. The testing begins with the couple standing atop a large timber log, often decorated with ribbons, flowers, or other wedding motifs. At each end of the wood, both the bride and groom grasp hold of either side of a long two-person saw. As wedding guests form an audience circle around them, the engaged pair begins vigorously attempting to cut completely through the log's middle. This is no small feat, for tradition dictates that the log's diameter must exceed the height of the groom's shoulder. Chanting encouragement and sipping schnapps, nearby celebrants provide a festive backdrop as the laboring couple sweats through their formal attire. Clanking steel on wood resounds across the countryside. When the exertions finally succeed and the log splits cleanly in two with a crack, resounding cheers erupt from the crowd. Guests rush forth to examine the quality of the cut surfaces to evaluate the lovers' teamwork. Smooth, flat, matching wood grains indicate cooperative precision between the pair, an auspicious sign of marital success. Grizzled village elders offer their blessings for a stable union based on mutual effort. At times, stubborn logs refuse to be budged by amateur sawing. But rather than embarrassment in front of friends, this difficulty provides the bride and groom an early glimpse into dealing jointly with adversity. Achieving victory earns them a round of honey wine toast from onlookers, and the cloven log itself becomes a cherished heirloom of their special day. Number 9. Chick liver love test. Within the rugged, windswept grasslands of Mongolia, home to legendary warlord Genghis Khan, unique wedding customs persist among the nomadic herders. For the Dorvad ethnic group, determining a suitable life partner involves divining the compatibility between potential brides and grooms through the ritual reading of chick livers, a practice dating back thousands of years in the region. When a young Dorvad man wishes to propose marriage to a local girl, their families assemble to inspect the livers of newly hatched chicks as an omen. The internal organs of animals and their formations have carried spiritual significance for millennia in Mongol culture. Chick livers, in particular, are believed to hold clues foretelling the destiny of relationships. On an agreed date considered auspicious, the interested bride and groom gather with their parents at the home of a shaman or village elder. A basket of yellow chicks is presented, from which the hopeful couple each selects 3 small birds. In unison, while circling a small fire, the pair recite vows to honor their ancestors while holding the fluffy animals. Then, with a swift slice of the knives, they decapitate the chicks and deftly slit their bellies to remove the tiny livers. Squinting under the dim glow of candles, the elder carefully examines the 6 livers in silence, searching out any signs, colors, deformities, or patterns that might influence the marriage prospect. Nicks and holes warn of conflict, while symmetrical shapes signal harmony. 2 perfectly matching livers would have parents celebrating an idyllic love match. Finding imperfections in the livers indicates issues in the pairing, and that the wedding plans should be abandoned. Only ideal results permit the relationship to advance. Number 8. No smiling allowed. Imagine celebrating the happiest occasion of your life without even a hint of a smile. For marrying couples across the Democratic Republic of the Congo, maintaining stone-faced solemnity throughout one's entire wedding day and ceremony is standard. beaming, joyful grins are strictly taboo. Congolese culture traditionally emphasizes formal propriety and religious piety regarding weddings. Any semblance of lightheartedness or amusement during the entire matrimonial service, from initial vow exchanges to the culminating kiss, would convey offensive disrespect and flippancy about the gravity of marriage. Wedding guests likewise must remain subdued. Thus, majestic regal postures with zero mirth comprise mandatory bridal etiquette standards in Congo. Even the slightest subtle smirk risks conveying an absence of appropriate sobriety. Photos taken of the bride and groom around town must also present stoic, respectable demeanors, as if attending a high funeral. The customer indicates that if a married couple dares to flash their pearly whites while standing hand in hand at the altar, then their union may be jinxed toward lifelong doom. Any guest catching the blasphemous beam would instantly wag their tongues in scandalized disapproval, for clearly this pair lacks sufficient sanctity to succeed together. Number 7. Tooth removal ceremony. On the lush tropical island of Bali, where Hinduism infuses vibrant artistic customs, engaged couples must pass a jarring ritual before tying the knot, having a tooth filed down or extracted by a traditional healer. While seemingly extreme, this curious practice carries profound spiritual symbolism. 2 weeks before the wedding date deemed most fortuitous by priests, the bride and groom pay a visit to a Balinese shaman or dukan who performs the quick, semi-painless tooth modification procedure. This practitioner rubs herbs on a canine tooth to slightly numb it before deftly cracking the enamel using a miniature chisel and pliers. With practiced ease, either the whole tooth gets pulled out or merely the top corner fraction is damaged, depending on the parent's preference. There is minimal bleeding afterward. This wince-inducing ritual traces back hundreds of years to the underlying Hindu beliefs across the island of gods. Theoretically, canine teeth feature a natural triangular shape, evoking the geometry of the holy Hindu trinity of Lords Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Having one's tooth ever so subtly blunted or removed symbolically minimizes the mortal mimicry of divine perfection. The small personal sacrifice demonstrates humility before the gods as the betrothed begins sharing an earthly union. Additionally, chipping the proverbial sharpness of one's teeth holds metaphorical meaning, smoothing over any residual emotional rough edges that could otherwise damage marital harmony. Filing down overt jealousy, anger, greed, or unhealthy attachment chips away the bite of deeply rooted character flaws that might sabotage conjugal success. By marrying physical dental uniformity, deeper spiritual smoothness is revealed. And so the troublesome tooth's absence makes space for positive virtues like compassion and wisdom to grow between the couple instead. So while the notion of undergoing intentional tooth removal or disfigurement initially shocks most outsiders, for the Balinese, this gesture signifies a profound mindset shift as carefree adolescence ends and adult responsibilities like marriage begin. Their willingness to bear soreness in the mouth proves devotion to self-improvement for the sacred sake of a smooth family life ahead. Number 6. Chinese crying rituals. Within China's remote countryside, a bizarre weeping tradition still practiced in rural villages dictates that brides must weep for 1 hour every day in the entire month preceding their wedding day. And she does not cry alone. Female in-laws ritualistically join the daily sobbing chorus as the nuptials approach. This curious custom centered around bridal anguish retains its strongest popularity in Sichuan province, though variations exist nationwide stemming from ancient legends. Notably among the Tujia ethnic minority, the myth of a princess weeping upon leaving her family to marry the son of the Dragon King spawned an idea that a weeping bride attracts good fortune. So the more fervently she bawls, the better luck gets conferred upon her marriage. Therefore, during the final month before her marriage, a Sichuan bride weeps for 1 hour daily while her close girlfriends keep her tearful company. After 10 days, her mother also begins joining the daughter in woeful wailing duets for an hour. Then, for the final pre-wedding stretch, grandmother and even aunts take turns singing in the blues with the bride-to-be as well. To outside observers, this cacophonous chorus of crying females might seem senselessly depressing when a wedding should feel celebratory. Yet, for traditional Chinese culture emphasizing feminine modesty and familial piety, the carrying on consolidates cherished cross-generational bonds among women during a bittersweet life transition that severs the grown daughter's former daily ties as she grafts herself onto a new household. Moreover, shedding such copious tears functions like an emotional cleansing ritual to expel the bride's residual girlhood anxieties, self-doubts, and immaturities to clear psychic space for embracing the poised magnanimity of married womanliness. With moist eyes bridging past and future, the weepy wedding countdown canalizes a deluge of feelings, a symbolic baptism preparing the spiritual ground for fresh flowering in matrimony. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Imagine an elder relative on your wedding night offering marriage advice. Strange as it may seem, this ritual endures in remote African villages. After exuberant festivities, a time-honored custom calls for 2 attendants to accompany the newlyweds on their first night alone together. A wise village elder and the mother of the bride or groom join the nervous couple in the decorated bridal suite. The elder attendants connect the couple to ancestral knowledge, funneling the aggregated wisdom of ages past into the newlyweds. Their steadying company ensures the spark of romance ignites into a lasting flame, kindled by communal support. Makes us wonder, what other strange wedding night rituals linger in forgotten parts of the world? If you know of any, reveal them in the comments below. Number 5. Marriage by abduction. An age-old marital custom shrouded in controversy that persists across nearly 1/5 of Ethiopian villages is the practice of bridal abduction. Despite formal legal bans in the country, this unusual phenomenon endures whereby determined suitors kidnap young women to force them rapidly into marriage, sometimes violently against their will. Known as telefa in the Amharic language, bridal kidnapping often unfolds as a brazenly theatrical act. When a village man identifies his preferred wife, he enlists a gang of his male peers to ambush the woman unexpectedly along a country road and strong-arm her kicking and screaming into a getaway car. After several days confined under guard in a remote location, the exhausted captive eventually submits to matrimony, recognizing that her defiant chastity and reputation may never fully recover regardless. For its defenders, Telefa represents the ultimate display of masculine romantic initiative, like cowboys capturing maverick fillies in the American Wild West. Ethiopian abductors assert it is often the shyest and modest maidens who outwardly put up the greatest protest during choreographed Talifa, despite privately harboring affection for the kidnapper. And rather than requesting prohibitive dowries from the families of their brides which could financially prevent the marriage, Talefa provides impoverished men an accessible shortcut to wedlock. However, in recent decades, women's advocacy groups have highlighted the evident dark side of forcible telefa, which essentially validates stranger-perpetrated traumas against young females as a cultural norm, citing cases where victims did not consent whatsoever to the kidnapping, nor to the compulsory conjugal relations with the abductor that resulted. Critics condemn the institutional misogyny underlying the entire practice. Some survivors require years to recover from post-traumatic stress triggered by the ordeal inflicted under the guise of honoring tradition.
So I spent my afternoon with a lovely Slam who was a victim of child marriage when she was just 13 years old.
Number 4. Carving wooden spoons for the betrothed. Cradled amid the misted medieval forests and craggy mountains of Wales beats a heart infused with music, myth, and amorous magic. From lilting harp strings echoing through castle ruins to fables of King Arthur's eternal romance with Guinevere, a certain wistful romanticism permeates the ancient Celtic atmosphere. Little wonder then that unique courting customs like crafting engraved wooden spoons specifically for one's betrothed endure as treasured traditions across this UK country, with roots dating back before the Roman Empire's arrival. Typically, the ritual known affectionately as love spoon giving transpires shortly after a Welshman's formal request for marriage has earned acceptance from his lady. To demonstrate ongoing affection and commitment during their engagement period before exchanging vows, the groom personally carved an intricate decorative wooden spoon to present to his future bride. With attentive skill, the smitten man hand-etches various emblematic patterns into a piece of wood, often oak, ash, or elm. Hearts, keyholes, balls and chains, and horseshoes make popular designs representing love, security, togetherness, and good fortune. More elaborate spoons incorporate Celtic knotwork, floral themes, and intertwining lovers' initials. The handles culminate in graceful final splits, alluding to showering the bride symbolically with gifts aplenty. When polished smooth with beeswax, the finished pine memento makes for a handsome betrothal present from the groom to his beloved. More profoundly, the token conveys that he shall rely reliably provide her future nourishment and plenty, much as the wooden spoon might feed their future children. Like nesting songbirds tenderly crafting bowers to attract fine mates, Welshmen tap into primal instincts to demonstrate their durable capacity to shelter and sustain families. Number 3. Cabins of love. Nestled within the lush rainforests along Cambodia's southern Cardamom Mountains near Thailand, reside the indigenous Krung people, an ethnic minority boasting an unusual marital custom. When a Krung daughter comes of age for marriage, her father ventures deep into the jungle to construct an isolated hut where she can secretly entertain suitors until she selects her groom. According to Krung's animist beliefs, girls embody wilderness spirits residing among trees and rocks. To guide their hearts intuitively toward ideal husbands, then, Krung maidens must commune privately with those woodland elements that raised them. Their cabins of love facilitate this romantic discernment through seclusion from village attachments. Therefore, upon his adolescent daughter's flowering into eligibility for marriage, the Krung father bears sole responsibility for building her a jungle abode beyond the visible range of the communal huts. This rustic refuge serves as the young woman's private venue to independently host potential male partners for thoughtful conversation and companionship before deciding whom she will wed. Within her remote cabin of love, a Krung daughter enjoys enormous freedom in determining her spouse. She can meet one-on-one with as many appropriate village men as she desires over weeks or months until she perceives profound peace in her heart for one special suitor. Once privately assured of her self-chosen husband-to-be, the girl subsequently proposes marriage directly to her selected beau. After leaving the matchmaking cabin having secured his bride-to-be's proposition, the Krung groom must then pay a traditional dowry to her father before officially marrying. This bridal price usually consists of cowrie shells or silver bars, in addition to lengths of prized white cloth and elephant tusks, plus a gaggle of actual cows. The specific number of cattle gifted to the bride's family conveys the perceived social value of the daughter. Hence, more bovine is equal to greater matrimonial esteem. Though initially seeming akin to youthful prostitution to outside observers when the French colonized Cambodia, Krung elders clarify that secluded jungle huts actually empower tribal women. Their forest refuge facilitates wide yet protected relationship explorations to discover life's most precious match. The animals acquired as dowry acknowledge fathers for the years invested in nurturing their girls under their wing, before releasing them to fly on spirit wings toward marital destinies as wild and free as nature herself. Number 2. Newlywed confinement. On the densely forested island of Borneo, where one of Earth's most ecologically vital old-growth rainforests thrives, indigenous groups like the Tadong people strive to perpetuate ancient traditions, harmonizing human affairs with powerful spirit guardians dwelling amid nature. After weddings, custom still dictates that Tadong couples cannot relieve themselves at all, while confined for 3 entire days under elder supervision. For those freshly married Tadong pairs, any form of lavatory usage remains utterly taboo during their time of isolation together. They cannot defecate or urinate even in buckets. Elders bring the newlyweds only tiny sips of water and morsels of food to minimize bathroom urgency. While allowed to talk privately, the uber-shy couples rarely make eye contact or touch during confinement. Eventually, after 3 agonizing days, they get freed from restrictions, much to most grooms' relief. Custom decrees that violating this privation ritual would curse a marriage to lifelong misfortune, even death. The prohibition persisted so long partly because Tadong, parents feared uncoupling souls, might haunt the village as ghosts. Spiritual motives underlie this peculiar post-marital custom. By completely preventing urination and excretion, the couple concentrates pranic energy inward to repel meddling evil spirits, rather than letting it drain externally into waste products exploitable by demons. Their withheld bodily essences cannot then get twisted into dark witchcraft against them. While uncomfortable physically, the 3 days without a bathroom build mental focus, warding off supernatural interference in their sacred union. Although some progressive Tadong newlyweds dismiss the ordeal now as outdated folly, most traditional village elders remain convinced that flouting this hallowed marital custom jeopardizes cosmic order and harmony with malignant ancestral ghosts. They warn that the ritual husband's vital community balance between seen human and unseen spiritual worlds, whose ire puts everyone's fate at stake. So the couples endure confinement trusting in the tried and tested supernatural wisdom of their ancestors, rather than questioning taboos that have long preserved protective cosmic equilibrium. Number 1. Ghost weddings. An obscure Hindu funeral tradition that long persisted for centuries in rural southern India is the macabre practice termed ghost marriage. This post-mortem matrimonial custom involved ceremonially wedding deceased sons and daughters who tragically died unwed before reaching adulthood, thereby preserving their purity for the afterlife. The belief was that properly marrying off deceased adolescent souls would prevent them from wandering the earth aimlessly as restless spirits for lack of worldly closure. Instead, their consciousness could transcend into peaceful, married existence and completion in the hereafter. Without fulfilling key Hindu societal expectations like marriage, the dead were suspended in eternal liminal uncertainty, not fully departed nor worldly beings. When Hindu boys or girls passed away prior to turning 18 years old, which was common historically, their unfortunate family would arrange for them posthumously to wed the soul of another dead child by conducting a proxy funeral marriage. On an astrologer-selected auspicious date, an effigy or bracelet symbolizing the dead kid got ritually married, while priests chanted ancient Vedic mantras to seal the bond in eternity. Some extremely zealous variations even demanded marrying a breathing woman to a dead man's body in situ. Though utterly appalling today, such extreme rites gave emotional closure to parents feeling their child was forever cheated of earthly marital bliss by premature demise. By proxy pairing them with a ghostly spirit spouse, the living relatives could finally consider them at peace. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.